What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Girl Dadding Podcast, a weekly podcast with two girls and their dad. We have the host, Kanaya, the co-host, Kiani, and the other co-host, our dad, Marcel. Every week, we'll be talking about different topics, events, subjects that affect the father-daughter relationship, but more specifically, our relationship with our dad, with each other as sisters, and how we view the world based on those different things. So let's get to this week's episode.
So this week we're talking about rites of passage and the various stages of life that my daughters have gone through regarding school and some other important human topics and the impact they've had on us as family, us as daddy daughters, those two as sisters, and what they will incur and what they will go through in the years to come. So with that,
all right, y'all, yeah.
so
Yay.
First days of school. Kanaya, you obviously being the older, started school first, started when you were 3. Share a bit about what you remember regarding that first week of school.
Okay, y'all. So school, I was not a fan for a long time. I remember I used to throw terrible tantrums, just bad. The whole school probably heard me screaming. When my dad would leave me at the schoolhouse because I'd be like, I don't want to be here with these people that I don't know and they don't know me. So why am I here? Yeah, it was just bad. There's one incident in particular that I was in the foyer of the school. There was a black like rug or mat, because we lived in Chicago, so you got to have something for people to step on when it's raining, snowing. And I just remember I just sat and just wailed. And it was just so terrible for the people who had to hear me. Eventually I caught on, but school was just not my friend at first.
Yeah,
And I'm still like that to this day.
Yeah, those first 3 years when you weren't in school, you were at home. You obviously were used to being in the house with your parents. And so for me to get you to go to school and stay there, be without your mom and your dad for the first time, and I was surprised at how aware you were of what was happening. And so, I didn't think the experience would be so traumatic for you. But yeah, the tantrums you threw were epic.
Yeah, it was.
They were, I mean, they if you look up the word tantrum in the online dictionary, there is a short video of you on that day back in, I guess that was what, 2007. But it also showed me how much at that early age you valued, as best you could for a toddler, you valued your relationship with your parents, with me, with your mom, because you did not want anything to separate you. And so that was a stark lesson for me regarding separation anxiety. And I've not forgotten about it. And so I think that's one of the things that I look back on with a degree of pride and joy, because it shows me you prefer to be around us more than anyone else. And so I think back on that time, those tantrums, and they always elicit a smile and a bit of a chuckle. Kiani, completely different experience. Tell us about what you remember about your first days of school.
100%. I've been a fan of school since I could remember. I started school way before you did. I started school at 2. And my first day, I was lit. Listen, I like people. So to have other people around me who were my age, who loved doing the same things I like to do. I mean, I have memories from that first year of school, because I mean, you're 2 and 3, you're not really doing much, just playing games and like listening to songs. We used to play this one game. I used to love that game. Oh my goodness. I remember coming home and trying to tell y'all about the game, but y'all just looking at me like I'm crazy, because like nobody wants to walk around in a circle. Like that's just, but I have loved school since I can remember. I love school to this day. Certain aspects of school. But I like people. I like the people I surround myself with. So school has never been something I've dreaded, unlike you, Kanaya. I mean, just seem like you hated school. I've always loved going to school. I've always loved hanging out with friends. So that's where we kind of differed. And I think because I started school earlier than you, I was around them, but by the time like I was really starting to notice like hanging out with you guys on a day-to-day basis, I was already in school. So you kind of had that against you, I want to say, because I mean, like,
Yeah,
while
a
you
little
were
bit.
once you were starting to recognize, I mean, they were the only people you were around. So
I mean, my adversity to school is, I mean, I think it goes a little bit deeper than just kind of, oh, I'm around my family. First of all, what's so ironic is school is my gift, if you want to call it that. You know, I'm not really athletically inclined or artistically inclined. I was just good at, like, school came naturally to me when I was young, especially. So the irony of that is so funny to me. But I mean, when I was two, but really until I was what, four, when I went to preschool, I mean, I was around either Granny, because I was with her every day, especially when I was young, or you guys. So it was more of like, I know these people have my safety in mind. I'm going to be protected. I know where I'm going to go, what I'm going to be doing. Going to school was like, I don't know y'all. And so if something happens, are y'all concerned about me? That's the key.
You
And
had
then
all this going through your little 3-year-old mind.
probably not at three, but at 20, I understand more because to this day, I'm the same way. When I go into new spaces, I'm like, I don't know y'all like that. Y'all don't know me like that. I don't know that y'all have my back. If something happens, I'm not the priority, especially because when I was young with my dad's family, because my mom's family is a little bit more spread out across the country, I was the first child of the next generation. So there is nobody else when it comes to kids that your family was like, we got to make sure this person is taken care of. It's just me. So I always knew with whoever I was with that I was safe, I was taken care of. I can find them wherever, if something's going on, I know who to look for, especially if we're in public. Because even with your family, with certain members of your family, I was like, don't leave me with them. Because I will only see them like holidays or somebody's birthday. It wasn't like every day. So when I went to school, I was like, well, I've never seen any of these. So I don't have this person I'm looking for. So even today, when I go into new places, which we'll talk about as we get through the episode, I'm like, I gotta find somebody or be watchful until I find somebody that I'm like, okay, this person got my bag and I'm a return serve. So, my school experience was hilarious. My preschool teacher loves me now, but she was like, oh boy, but you gave us a problem.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that both of you will have mentioned in one way or another, just in the time we've been talking, is the difference in your perspective on people. Where Kanaya, you're not easily trusting of people. You don't get your energy from people. Kiani is sort of the opposite, where she thrives on the interaction. She thrives on the sense of community. She likes being in that realm. And so for me, trying to make sure I allow you, Kanaya, to be back in the background a bit, also while allowing Kiani to be up front and having that spot on stage was an interesting balancing act, because again, as we've talked about, you two are not like each other in that respect, which is one reason why you all get along so well, because you respect each other's differences. And so for me, yes, you had time where you were by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Kiani doesn't have that experience. She's never been by herself.
Mm-hmm.
Even though when you left, well, she got that time when you left for school, but as only thing she knows is having someone in
Mm-hmm.
front of her who's older than her. So yeah, she was much more apt to thrive around people because that's all she's known. Whereas you have the experience of not having anyone else your age. So when you were around, when you were put in that situation, yes, there was a steeper learning curve, so to speak, because it was so brand new to you. Whereas with Kiani, it was so much more natural and so much more secondhand to her because that's all she knew.
Right. She
So
got another kid at her house.
exactly. So for me, again, as your dad, making sure I understood what made each of you tick and allowing you all to grow as young ladies in what allowed in what made you tick, what makes you tick today. And it's, it's funny looking at it now because you all are still extroverted and introverted, but you now obviously have better bearings on how to maximize your introversion and your extroversion. And for me, it's neat to see how you all have evolved over these past 16, 20 years.
Yeah, I think now I'm still the same way, but I've learned how to separate personal and professional relationships, and that came from being in college. Um, which we'll get into when we get into my experience with going to college, but I'm definitely still very introverted. And Kiani's definitely very extroverted, which we help each other with in certain areas.
Do
So
you think, and this is for both of you, I'll ask Kiani first. Do you think you have learned to embrace any introverted tendencies you may have
Yeah.
because of your relationship with Kanaya?
Yeah, like I've definitely learned how to be okay with being by myself and like being alone in my space. Like especially during this school year, like it's probably gonna be so bad, but there are times where just like my friends will be like, "Oh, I want to kind of go to this," and I'm just like, "I don't want to go out
ooh,
to this." It's not that I have a problem with you. I just don't want to be outside of my space. So like
right.
that's definitely something I've gotten from Kanaya, because like I like being outside, I like doing stuff, but then it's just those odd occurrences where I just be like, but like I want to stay in the bed.
You got it, my guy.
I
That's
don't know.
all
I
you.
can't. I can't do that today. I'm sorry. I can't.
What about you, Kanaya?
The extroverted, yes. I think this year when I started developing closer relationships with my friends. And so if they want to go somewhere, I'm like, okay, just go. Because you don't got nothing else to do right now. Like you're laying on the couch or whatever, watching TV. Um, but I know them and I trust them with the things that we do. So I can be, because I'm a good time if I know you like that. And so listen, the people can confirm this. I am much different in a room of people that know me versus if I'm in a room of people where half of these people I'm like, who are y'all? So around my girls or my friends, my homies, I'm like, yeah, let's go have a good time. I don't mind going out. So Kiani's definitely taught me you gotta have more fun because I work a lot. Or I'm thinking about work a lot. So I'm like, let me go out and have more fun.
Good. Good. That pleases and gratifies me to see how you two are using each other's strengths and personalities and inclinations to improve yourselves. I mean, that does my heart a lot of good. So, as you get older, obviously being females, you hit that moment where the sort of unofficial official start of womanhood arrives.
And she been whooping my tail since.
Man,
Lord
got
Jesus.
to be more careful.
Got to be more careful.
So, obviously, I'm sure your mom, prepared you girls for the onset of your menstrual cycles. Kanaya, talk a little bit about how your mom prepared you, because I certainly didn't, other than telling you the biological fact of it's on its way. I mean, I'm obviously not equipped to.
That's terrible.
That's so funny to me
Why is
though.
that terrible?
That sounds like a looming threat. It's on its way.
Well,
Like, oh my gosh.
That's hilarious
Like it's
though.
hiding in our closets or something. That's so crazy.
well, but okay, so that further reinforces my inability to relate to it on a personal level.
Yeah, we're gonna have to work on your preparation skills. It's coming.
No, I don't. No, you don't have to prepare me anymore.
It's
It's
here.
here. So hey, it's over and done with as far as I'm concerned. But talk about how your mothers and other women, your grandmothers, aunts, whatever, how they prepared you for the start of your cycles, just a little bit. And then You know, I want to share my perspective of having children who are now having a distinct difference in gender.
Okay, well, if you've listened to any of our recent episodes, you probably know I am 20 now. I started my menstrual cycle when I was 12, so it's been about 8 years. So I don't really remember the specifics of the preparation process. I
What are some
feel
of the
I
things?
know
What are some of the things your mom told you about it? I mean,
that
just
you
basic.
that you that you will experience bleeding from your private areas, as our parents taught us to call them, and pain, mood swings, things of that nature. So when it happened for me, I'm like, okay, this is probably what she said was going to happen. And I was at home, luckily. So I think I stayed in the bathroom until she got home because I'm like, I don't even know what's going on. And then talked to her about it. She was like, yeah, pretty much. Um, there is no preparation though
This is just so.
for the actual experience because it grows with you. So when things are going on in your life, it changes. Especially being in college, I've noticed when my stress levels are higher because it's like final season or something else is going on, it shows up differently. And then my mom being 30 years my senior, her experience while I'm experiencing is two different things because we're at two different ages. So there really is no good quote unquote way. You just can kind of give the basic scientific facts because it's different for every girl.
Or you can just say it's coming, like I did.
Or that.
Kiani,
Um,
how'd your mom prepare you or any other ladies in our family?
right. So since Kanaya is also older than me and got hers first, I kind of had both of them. And it's funny because like I'm one of I'm always the youngest person in my friend group, in my class. My birthday is in July, so I'm typically the youngest person. So like people were getting there before me. So I was like, oh man, when is mine gonna come? So so Kanaya and my mom would talk about their experience, and I would see it firsthand. And I used to be like, man, can't wait till mine gets here.
Man.
Got here. My God, today.
Today, okay?
I was also at home when I got mine. It was right after my 13th birthday, about a month after. And my mom was home. So like when they actually no, mom was at the store. So when it happened, I texted mom. I was like, hey, I think it's here, but I'm not
It's
sure.
coming.
But I'm not quite sure. So then I also waited till she got home and I sat in the bathroom and she was like, yeah, it's here. So like from then until about now, it's definitely changed. It definitely differs. Like if I'm stressed, if I have a lot going on, it changes when it comes and how it kind of appears. And then like my pain tolerance is low. So like I experience cramps and stuff. I feel like way worse. Like sometimes it feels like the world is ending. Like it's never fun. But
Never.
yeah. I feel like if like as far as preparedness goes, it's kind of just a witnessing it firsthand and just being like, oh yeah, this sucks, or you don't want to do this, or this is expensive. Like, oh like
Man.
you never realize how expensive feminine products are until you're caught in a rock and a hard place and mommy can't buy them for me. And I'm looking at the screen like, my gosh, it's a lot of
Man.
money. Whoa. And then sometimes you be thinking like, man,
$8?
$8 is insane.
Crazy, my
Oh my
God.
gosh. It's like actually very bad.
Well, so imagine as a father having, I mean, before Kanaya started, I never had to deal with a daughter who had to deal with that. So, you know, by the grace of the good Lord above, you know, your mom lived with us. We're married.
Right.
So I knew I had someone who could navigate those waters with you. Um, I simply wanted to make myself available to you in whatever way I could, you know, because again, for obvious reasons, I had no experience with it. When I was growing up, you know, I didn't have any significant understanding of it, because that wasn't something obviously my mom would share with me, and certainly my older sister wouldn't do it. So, you know, I, again, everything I knew about it was from science. That was
Yeah.
it. So, but as Kanaya started going through it, you know, I wanted to just be available. I didn't want to do any coaching. I didn't want to give any advice. I did not want to say the wrong thing, because
Besides, it's coming. Yeah.
Right.
you know, I mean, I was completely out of my league. And but I knew, again, eventually you two would get to that point. So from my perspective, it was a complete shift in the way I perceived you, because now, before you all started your cycles, you know, I saw you as girls. Now I have to start seeing you as really, really young ladies. You know, because there is a substantial biological change. You know, so you as you were learning more about yourselves, learning more about your physiologies, now you also are becoming, in my estimation, you are becoming more aware of sexuality and the consequences of sexuality. You know, because now as you're ovulating, which means there is the potential of pregnancy. You that wasn't something that was on the radar when you were 9 and 10, even 11 years old. So when you all crossed that bridge, you know, there was a completely different dimension of our relationship. So, you know, because I want to affirm my children, I want to affirm your femininity. You know, now listen, if I got to go out and buy feminine products, I'm going to buy feminine products. You know, if I've got to, you know, give you a hug when you're having those days of cramps and discomfort, I'm going to do that, because that's part of who you are. And I need to make sure you all knew I was comfortable with you being young, really, really, really young ladies, and not shying away from that responsibility or shying away from that reality. You know, listen, every female is going to go through that. And I believe every father needs to prepare himself for that. And so I prepared the best way I could. I relied on your mom. I even asked my mom, you know, how she prepared my sisters for their coming cycles. I talked to my sisters about it. So I tried to arm myself with as much information as I could about what would happen. But again, you know, until those days come, everything is theoretical. But once the theoretical became practical, I felt I felt my preparation was as thorough as it could be. I wasn't afraid of it. But I also wanted you two to know I was not intimidated by it. It's natural. And I would much rather you have those cycles than not have those cycles. And so I would much rather go to the store having to buy tampons and pads instead of having to buy baby formula when you girls are 16. You know, I would much rather have that responsibility. So, you know, it was a season of light treading, I'll say. But I will admit, I look forward to it, because again, it gave me another opportunity to do something I think responsible fathers need to do, and that's embrace the changes, the biological, physiological changes their daughters go through when they get to that time in their lives.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Phew, got through that. So now we get into high school. And that's a completely different ball of wax, particularly for Kanaya. Um, you know, talk about, Kanaya, those first couple of days and weeks of being a ninth grader, a freshman in high school.
Well, I believe in our family, uh episode with our mom, we talked about how I did move up a grade. So I did 2 grades in a school year. So of
Yes,
course,
you went from sixth to
naturally,
seventh grade in one school year.
yes, I did. And then in the fall, immediately after that, I was in 8th grade.
Mhm.
So there is a level of chaos ensuing because now high school is a year earlier,
Mhm.
and it's not like this is 3rd to 4th grade, where even though it's a year earlier, it's not next year. So I'm trying to figure out, first of all, the experience of skipping a grade is very interesting, but
Talk
I'm
about
trying
it.
to figure out, um, I remember that year because I started my cycle at 12 and then was 6th grade, because I think I remember the next day, because I think that was also when I had burned my foot with fish grease. Side note, we'll get to that another day. But I feel like I had my foot right.
The same day? Oh my gosh, he was taking a beating.
I think it was prior to that, because I feel like I had a wrap on my foot.
He was going through it.
And man,
Sorry, she
because
was.
I had my 6th grade teacher was a woman, and I remember talking to her about, oh, this happened or whatever. So if I'm going to the bathroom a lot, this is why. Because back then they didn't want you in the bathroom all the time, because people go in the bathroom to hide or play. When you're in grammar school, you don't want to be in the classroom. You find reasons to leave the room. So I remember having to tell her that. But anyway, I digress. She and my 7th grade teacher, who happens to have known me since I was a child, because he was at my first school with me, like, oh, we're gonna move her up, she's not really being challenged, etc. So that happened. We went through the whole process of that. I think that was my first experience, which is key to the high school experience for me, with like changing friendships. I remember my really close friend at the time, she cried because she wanted to move with me and she couldn't go. Some other people were kind of like, oh, so you just gonna leave us? Like, you know, really? Like, that's what we doing? Some people that I was in that class with, I've known since we were like 2 at my first school, and we ended up transferring to the same um next elementary school when our first school closed. And so it was kind of weird, because it was just like, dang, I've been in school with these girls since we were like 2, 3, 4 years old, and I'm now going to be in a different grade. And then you have, the new people, the boys in particular, which I'll get more into that in our episode about dating as girls. Um, where they kind of like, we get a new girl. Okay, sure. Like, this is fun. So navigating new friendships, and then having to go to 8th grade, testing. I ended up going to Whitney Young for high school. It was a much different arena. Um, we stayed South Side. Whitney Young is West Loop. So I'm on public transportation now, which I've never done. I got picked up and dropped off for every day of elementary school. I'm by myself a lot more. Like, my mom, we would get on Metro together, which is a public transportation line that's in, the Midwest. And she would get off and walk to work, and I would get off and get on the CTA Blue Line and go to school. What was helpful was, there were, because of the location of the school, most people live South Loop or North or even West, but a lot of people are coming from the same general direction. So it was like a mass of us traveling at the same time.
Mhm.
So I wasn't completely by myself, but not having a familiar face was definitely interesting. High school is just different than grammar school. You have passing period because you're not in the same person's classroom all day. You're in different classes with, like, you don't see the same people all day either. You go from, I had some classes with friends, some classes with no friends, or I would go from first period, I see my friend, and then 8th period, but that's it. Or whatever the case may be. Different workloads. That's when I had to start learning how to manage my time better, my schoolwork better, because you might have a teacher who is just like, yeah, we're gonna do this in class, but you don't really get homework. Then you have other classes and teachers where you got to read for what seems like an eternity. So managing different things, but also I had two cousins and an aunt go there before me. So I'm like, oh God, again, you know, these people know my family and the background that I come from. My principal had been principal for since the 90s. So all three of my family members had her as well. And so I'm like, okay, so I can't be out here messing up because they know my people. So that adds another layer because you feel like eyes are always watching you.
And one of the things you also had to deal with, I remember us talking about this, was, you know, going from being sort of the
The
big
big fish.
fish.
Yeah, because a lot of them are, I went to a very mixed race school. And so when you come from a place like I came from where I was with majority Black kids for the most part, I had a couple classmates who might have been mixed or Latino or Latinx, excuse me, Caucasian, different, but you don't have the frequency was nowhere near where it was when I went to high school. I mean, there was some of everybody, which is not a bad thing at all, but they come from different levels of education, different exposures to education and resources. So I'm like, oh, all y'all know something. Y'all smart. Dang. So
Right.
now
And
I have to,
one of the things I remember telling you, Kanaya, is, you are no longer the smartest person in your class. I mean, you graduating as valedictorian for eighth
I
grade.
did
Now you are one of hundreds of
of both.
valedictorians.
Correct.
And so one of the things, I wanted to stress to you, as you were going through that first semester, was learning how to work smart. You wanted to do things on your own. And I remember telling you, listen, you can be smart and still get other people to help you. You don't have to do it all by yourself. Working hard is good, but working smart is better. So
Yeah.
if you can have someone else help you figure things out, that does not make you less intelligent. That doesn't make you less smart. It makes you more open to getting help, which helps you become even more well versed. And so that's one of the things I remember most about your freshman year, you transitioning from someone who felt the pressure of having to do it all on your own, to do it all by yourself, to being a student who was willing to get help when she needed it.
Yeah, that was a new experience for me because when I was in elementary school, grammar school, grade school, whatever you call it, I mean, when you skip a grade and become valedictorian, and there's tutoring is not the thing that it is in high school and college, they kind of assess you based on your performance and like your testing capabilities based up and kind of, okay, this person needs assistance. I never had that. So it was just like I got to the end result, which was an eighth grade diploma and a valedictorian stole by myself. So now I'm in high school and it feels like, okay, I must be getting stupid then because I can't do this by myself no more. College, though, it really solidified that idea because college is a whole different ball game, which we're getting to. But yes, that was my initial high school experience.
So let's move over to Kiani. Talk about how leaving Oakdale after sixth grade and going to a high school building, but being a seventh grader, how that transition happened, and if there were any lessons you learned from Kanaya's time as a high schooler.
Um, okay, so from going from sixth grade at Oakdale to a high school building, it was a big jump. Chicago has selective enrollment, so you can go to a high school for your seventh and eighth grade years and then transition into high school. So it's kind of like a pre-high school type of thing. I had to test to get in. The testing part of that was interesting because it's not stuff that you typically learn in the classroom. So I had to take a prep class for that. And like just seeing the shifting in like my learning and like my ability was hard because it was just like, well, first off, I don't learn this in the classroom. And I was just like, man, I'm just not getting this. Like, this is like, it was hard. So I was a little defeated because I'm just like, I can't get this. Like, what is my life gonna look like when I get to an academic center? And then once I got past my testing, I went to high school called Lindblom, and seventh grade year was a rough year. Oh my goodness. But even before COVID happened, the jump from like what I was learning and what they expected of me was completely different from what I was used to at Oakdale. And I mean, like, it's just like, it was constant work. And I was just like, oh my goodness, who does this much work? And I'm in a high school building. So like, they treat you like high schoolers because you're in a high school building, you're surrounded by high schoolers. And this is technically not an elementary setting. So that was interesting. And I would say learning from Kanaya was definitely more so like a learning I'm not alone, and like there are people that are designed to help me. We had programs like put in our school that were made to help students, whether it be like students helping students or teachers helping students. Like, we would have office hours, and there was a day out of the week that we would take to do like office hours and like study halls so that you could get the extra help you needed. So I'll say that about my academics in the days. My transition into high school, like my freshman year was the first year back from COVID for real, for real. So now we were in school the entire day.
Yeah.
Well, we weren't virtual some days and in the building other days. I mean, like, I was there 8 a.m. to 3:05 in the building, in the classroom. Limbo was structured different. We had block schedules. I was sitting in classrooms for hours and 30 minutes. I don't know how I did that. I mean, I'm doing it now. It's a long time when you think about it, but it goes by quick. But I've learned a lot of patience, because it's one thing to be in a space for an hour and 30, but you're doing different things. It's another thing to have somebody talking to you for an entire hour and 20 minutes, or they're talking and you're supposed to be actively working as they're talking. I don't know how I'm doing it, but I'm doing it. So my freshman year was interesting for that reason. Sophomore year was pretty cool. I was starting to do more stuff, more high schooly type of stuff, going out to events, staying for games. I'm heavily involved in theater, so I was doing that too. And then after my sophomore year, we moved to Atlanta, and now I'm a part of International Baccalaureate, so now the workload is a bit tougher. When we got here, I met with my counselor, and he was trying to figure out the next best step for me. And he basically told me that I had two options: either to graduate this year or be a part of International Baccalaureate. I didn't want to graduate. I didn't want to do what she did because I wasn't ready. And it's different because it wasn't like I was going to high school, I was going to college, and college is a pretty big deal. So I was just like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do this International Baccalaureate thing. I don't know what I signed myself up for. Like, looking at it now, like, I don't know what I was thinking. I've had so many conversations with my friends throughout this school year so far. I'm constantly just like, did I make the right decision? Because it's
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, but this school year, I'm a junior now. I'm definitely doing a lot more than I did in Chicago. I feel like I'm having that movie type of high school experience. Like, I'm doing so many different things. Now I can drive, which we're gonna talk more in depth about. So like, now I can go places. I have more access to going places. Of course, I have to ask for permission, but it's a lot easier to ask and to take yourself somewhere than ask them to take you somewhere.
Say that part again.
It's a lot easier to ask to take yourself somewhere than to ask them to take you somewhere. Like, for example, like recently I was going to my aunt's house, but I wasn't supposed to be there till late in the evening. And my friend had called and like, hey, could you like maybe stop by and hang out? I had already asked about going to my aunt's house. So now it was a matter of asking if I could go to my friend's house before my aunt's house. It's a lot easier to say, hey, can I drive the car, make another right before the left and go here and then go there? Then it'd be like, hey, so actually, can you get in the car now and take me here, go home, come back, take me there? And then like, it's just a lot easier. So I'm doing a lot more. I'm gonna start driving to school. So I'm my high school experience is definitely shifting. I can say I've lived quite a few lives throughout my high school experience, and I'm really grateful. I feel like now I'm starting to experience what you were experiencing before COVID, like how your high school experience was, because like you had a lot more freedom considering like you were taking yourself to school and taking yourself home. So yeah, I would say I'm seeing a lot more benefits or more pros and cons of high school now.
Yeah, one of the things that I wanted to do, make sure that that your mom and I did, was to encourage both of you to maximize your high school experience. You know, whether it was Kanaya, you getting on the bus for the first time, getting on the train, I should say, for the first time, and going to school, and you know, learning how to get from point A to point B in the city, in the big city, or whether it was you participating, you breaking ties with your 8th grade people, and immersing yourself in being a high school student, or whether it was you, Kiani, you know, going to the academic center at Lynn Bloom and getting the feel for what it's like to be in that kind of environment. I think that's very important, and I always have, because that's preparing you for adulthood. That's preparing you to get out and make decisions on your own, to use some of the principles and values that your mother and I have instilled in you too, and modeled in front of you, so you can make decisions that are best for you, both short term and long term. For you to kind of get out the nest a bit and spread your wings. That was important for me, because I did not want you to be tethered to us, to be handicapped in your development, in your growth. We wanted you to be well-rounded, but we also wanted you to understand we want to give you room and space to make decisions that may not turn out to be the best, and have a safety net underneath you, so you'll understand things you can do, things you cannot do, things you should do, things you should not do, but always knowing if you fall, that we're going to be able to catch you, and we're going to help you process what may have led you to fall. So when the similar situation arises the next time, you'll be better equipped to make a better decision. And so when I look at each of your high school experiences, I see how you two have flourished in those environments. And I'm excited about what's going to lie ahead in the next few years when you eventually get to college. Kanaya, when you get out of college, at least when you finish your bachelor's, who knows what you're going to do after that, whether you continue with your master's or you start your working career. But I'm excited about that, because you two have already gone through a time of growth, a time of development, and you have succeeded so far beyond what I thought you would. You two have completely crushed it, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen. Listen, we've got to wrap this up, but in our next episode, we're going to talk more about applying to college, going away to school, which was a huge rite of passage. And as Kiani mentioned, we're going to talk about you two getting behind the wheel, learning how to drive, and the big steps that has taken in both of your lives, and for me and your mother as well. All right, I can't explain and express how pleased I am that she is finally starting to embrace driving. We'll talk more about that. Can I want to send us out of here?
Well, thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate your listening every week. See you all next week on next week's episode. Bye.
Bye.